everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be one that I'm so excited for. It's going to be my June reading wrap up. This is going to be kind of a longer video. I'm hoping not to make it too long-winded. I did read 15 books this month and a little over, I think, 3,500 pages, which is absolutely insane. It really all happened in the last 2 weeks of the month, and I have some books I'm so incredibly excited about that I want to share my thoughts and opinions on, and if you also haven't read them yet, recommend them because I think they're really great. Hopefully this video is a little bit more laid back and chill, just telling you guys the books that I finished in the month of June. I might get a little hyper about some of them because I absolutely loved some of these. So many 5 stars. First few books for the year that actually made me cry. I wanted to address really quickly, ignore the light, it's coming from my phone. I did want to say really quickly that I haven't done a reading wrap up since January. So from February to May, I was going to do a recent reads wrap up. But honestly, I didn't read that many groundbreaking books. The books that I did read that I thought were really incredible or were just complete flops, I did actually highlight in my mid-year book freakout tag, which is the best and worst books I read this year, and I will have that linked up above. I posted it before because I wanted it to be kind of like chronological. So not any of these books, I believe, were mentioned in that video, so I wanted to give them their own spotlight and mouthpiece. And yeah, I think that's gonna be all for what I needed to address. I will say too that I'm probably gonna say love, like, and essentially this book is about probably 100 times this video, so I do apologize for that. But all right, so we're gonna start off with the first books that I read this month. The first of which being Some Kind of Perfect, which is the final epilogue novel of the Addicted to You Calloway Sisters series. I read that series earlier this year. Nothing crazy to write home about, but it was a lot of fun. It is definitely something to get yourself wrapped up in if you're looking for a different form of escapism that isn't like fantasy. It is a lot. I'll kind of quickly explain the series. So the 2 series make up one pretty large story. They're all in the same world, and we have 10 books following 3 couples, tons of really cool tropes, childhood friends to lovers, fake dating, that also hides their respective addictions. For the girl, it's a sex addiction. For the guy, it is alcoholism. He's an alcoholic. Then that is the first couple and sister. The next 2 couples are also part of the Calloway sisters family. The next couple is the sex addict Lily's older sister. So Rose has her own story, and that is like school rivals to lovers trope. It's really all there is. A lot of bantering and super steamy romance if you're in for that. And then the final is like a forbidden romance. They shouldn't be dating. Pretty large age gap. Grumpy Sunshine. It's like my favorite. And that is Lily, the sex addict's younger sister. So it's really great. It is definitely something to get yourself wrapped up in if you're looking for something to just kind of unplug for a minute. It has drama, gossip, super wealthy people and their nice wealthy lifestyles. They have private planes, traveling to other countries, a reality TV show, super drama and scandals, like so many things you can't even list them all really, even though I'm trying to. And so this is the epilogue novel. You heard that right. 10 books, and to finish it off, this epilogue novel. So I enjoyed it. It was a 3 out of 5 for me, merely because it was very long for wrapping everybody's stories up. I really enjoyed the last 6 chapters. It's a like farewell point of view from each of the couples, each individual in the couples, so there's 6 of them. I loved that portion. If I could rate that alone, I would give it 5 out of 5, but for the rest of what I had to sit through to get to it, it's a 3 out of 5. Yeah, not super memorable, but I will say the books kind of bleed together after a while, and I just kind of have like a memory of like the overarching story. So that was the first book I read. It took me 8 days to read one book. It was a lot to get through, and I wasn't always super excited about it, but that was the first book I finished this month. And then for the next 2 weeks, I read the Fulton U series. It's 4 books. It is a college-aged 4 boy roommates, and it is a football romance. It's very similar to the Off-Campus series in that sense. Like the 4 boys, they're all roommates, they all play for the same football team, and then their respective love interests. I really liked it. The first 3 books received 3 out of 5 stars for me. They were all pretty okay. I really did like the first book as I was reading it. That is Reese and Seth's story. The rest of them kind of went downhill. I know the boys' names were Nix and Burke. Burke's was nice. I liked the cooking aspect of it a lot. And then the final book was my favorite. It is The Fourth Time Charm, and I gave that one 4 out of 5 stars. That one is a childhood friends to lovers, like second chance romance. Not really, but I loved Marissa and LJ's story, and it was so good, so I did give it 4 to 5 stars. And that took me from June 1st until June 15th, when I started my first physical book for a while. And this is where the 5-star ratings come, and they come strong. So like I said, hitting it out of the park. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Dear God, I could probably sit and talk about this book for 30 minutes straight, but I'm gonna try not to. This is Taylor Jenkins Reid's 70s decade piece. If you're not familiar with her writing, I believe she's doing one for every decade within the past like 50 years. 60s was Evelyn Hugo, 70s is Daisy Jones, 80s was Malibu Rising that just came out this month, and I believe she's already working on her 90s decade piece, if I've heard through the grapevine correctly. We are following the origin story to the disbandment of Daisy Jones and then the band The Six and how they come together. It's absolutely an insane, wild ride. Taylor Jenkins Reid has a gift for characterization. I mean, the 5 out of 5 speaks for itself. Yeah, it's just really in a really great format, might I say. It's an interview format. I haven't listened to the audiobook, but I have heard that it is phenomenal. So when I do my reread, I might accompany it with the audiobook. But it's essentially covering what it is like to be at, you know, the top of rock and roll in the height of the 70s, and everything that comes with writing an album, going on tour, dealing with everything that fame has to offer you when you're at the top. Drugs, sex, making great music. It's so good. The story is, I think, loosely based in style off of Fleetwood Mac. There is a whole album that was also written with this at the back of the book. Taylor Jenkins Reid provides the album, and they are adapting this into a TV series. I think it's just like a mini series, and it's already been cast. I absolutely loved it. I loved the story. I loved Daisy. I loved Billy. I loved our other characters. Incredible, phenomenal. How it ended, chef's kiss. There were tears. They didn't fall, but they were there. I highly recommend, if you're looking for a good character-driven story. I've already started The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, so expect that in next month's wrap up. But it was so incredible, and I like can't stop smiling ear to ear about it. The library binding has been peeling for some time. It is my doing. If you hear it crinkling, enjoy the ASMR. Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. I absolutely adore this Brown Sisters series. I cannot wait to pick up Actor Age Eve Brown. I've heard very steamy, very incredible, super sexy things about it, and I'm so excited. But while we're talking about Danny, I loved it. 5 out of 5. while reading Chloe Brown, I thought that Chloe and Red were like my couple. I compare all other contemporary romance couples to them. And then I met Zephyr. And he is just amazing. I love their story. It's dark and heartbreaking at times. There is a lot of discussion on grief and mental health and anxiety that comes along with lots of things. And I really, really appreciated this story. I love it. I love the way that Talia Hibbert writes these characters. I love her style of writing. I love the hope I get while reading these books about finding a Zephyr of my own. All right, next this month, I also dipped my toes into Colleen Hoover. I've heard a lot of great things from fellow booktubers, and it went pretty viral on book TikTok for a while, and so I wanted to pick it up. Her book's up. The first I did pick up was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This book infuriated me. I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. We are following Lily Bloom, who is dealing with a lot right off the bat, and she has her own home issues that she is dealing with and an abusive relationship that she's witnessed with her father and mother. And the book opens with us meeting Ryle Kincaid, and Ryle becomes Lily's main love interest, and through them we're navigating Lily's relationship. She's in a new city, doing it well, and we get these present chapters and then also flashback to past chapters of a romance that Lily had with a boy in high school named Atlas. And we really get insight into her home life in high school and the dynamic between her and her parents, her father and her mother, her and this boy Atlas, and then he shows up in the present. And it takes us for a wild ride. I really recommend it. I don't want to give too much away. Look up trigger warnings, please. It could definitely be triggering for some people. So with that being said, yeah, if you read this book, I had the opinion of the last like 12 pages. And once Colleen Hoover said it, I may or may not have screamed with joy, because finally I was having it be vocalized is what I wanted. My camera battery is flashing at me, so I'm going to change it really quickly and we'll get back to the rest of the books in a sec. Hopefully we can continue without interruption. So, after It Ends With Us, I did read my first Emily Henry book too. I read Beach Read by Emily Henry, and I will say I did give it 4 out of 5 stars. And I think my issue with authors like Emily Henry and Sally Thorne is there's a lot of hype, and I don't always see deeper meaning besides just a romance. I definitely feel that way about The Hating Game, which I read earlier this year, and I'm pretty sure I talked about it in my mid-year freakout book tag. But I definitely know I prefer Emily Henry's style of writing, and I really did enjoy the book for what it was at the beginning. So we're following 2 characters, January and Gus, and they used to go to college together and haven't seen each other in a long time, and unbeknownst to them, they actually live next door for the summer. So they meet again and kind of, you know, rekindle their relationship and also switch narratives. So they're both authors and are having a little difficulty meeting deadlines, and decide that they'll switch narratives and take each other on various adventures to help learn about said respective narratives. And it was great. It was really fun. I really enjoyed the characters and the romance. The ending fell a little flat for me, and there was also a really, really heavy presence of like cult culture, which I wasn't expecting, but it was fascinating. I learned something, but that is something to be said. I didn't think I was going to be reading about cults. I thought it was going to be a light beach read, but yeah, it was fun, flirty, fluffy, nice way to spend a couple days after reading It Ends With Us. And then after that, I got sucked right back into the Colleen Hoover train with November 9. I do believe it's November 9 from what I read through the book. I loved this even more, if that's possible. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. I really enjoy Fallon and Ben. In It Ends With Us, I really wasn't rooting for the main guy. So when we were introduced to Ben, I really liked him. The story starts off with like a fake dating aspect because our main character, Fallon, her father is kind of an asswipe. And so he is talking really rude and disrespectfully to her, and Ben, being another patron at the diner that they are having this conversation at, swoops in and pretends to be Fallon's fake boyfriend for the day, and she's moving cross country the following day to New York City from LA. And so they spend the rest of this day, November 9th, together and decide to have no further contact but meet up in 1 year on November 9th again, so that Ben, through the next like 6 November 9s, can tell the story of them and write it, because he's an aspiring novelist. A little all over the place with the synopsis. I hope you got the drift. It was great. I really enjoyed it. I love the story. I know a lot of people probably don't like Ben, but just like I didn't like Ryle, you might not like Ben. I don't care. 5 out of 5. Really great. I did prefer it a little bit to It Ends With Us, but I think that's just more of, again, I wasn't rooting for the main character like I was with Ben. Next book. 5 stars and a tearjerker. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I don't think this book was supposed to make me cry. I will say though that it is a YA thriller murder mystery, so we're obviously dealing with murder. We have our main character, Pip. She is doing her senior capstone project on the influence of media in crime cases, and she is using her like resource example as a case that occurred like 4 years earlier in the town, where a young girl, Andy, was allegedly murdered by her boyfriend Sal, and Sal then committed suicide after murdering her. Pip is using this capstone like theme to kind of hide her real motive, which is she does not believe that Sal actually killed Andy, and she wants to get to the bottom of it. So she teams up with a couple people in town to help her navigate this case and try and, you know, Scooby-Doo Nancy Drew it, figure out who done it. It was great. I will say, because I knew the nature of the book, I was immediately on high alert from page 1, and I did guess half of the plot twist, if you will. I still really enjoyed it. There is obviously a lot of sad talk. We are talking about the murder of a young teenage girl and the suicide of a young boy, the alleged suicide of a young boy. And it's definitely hard. I will say too, trigger warning, because nobody told me about it, and it is what really broke my heart. There is animal cruelty in this book, and I did lie on the floor for probably a good 15 minutes crying and holding my dog afterwards, so be aware of that. I'm sorry if it is a spoiler, but I just don't want anybody to be caught off guard like I was, because crying, like sobbing, and then the end I cried at too, but it was just really sweet and also heartbreaking, and I loved it. Next book, Normal People by Sally Rooney. Wow, this has been a long time coming. I've heard so many things about this since even before I started making videos, and I love Daisy Edgar Jones, if you guys saw my book haul, so I really wanted to get my hands on and then start reading this book, and I'm really glad I did. I know it's hit or miss for pretty much everybody. Either you love it or you hate it. I haven't heard of too many opinions where they're like, it was fine, I could have done with or without it. I really liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I did take off a star because I did not like how it ended. I'm sure there was supposed to be meaning behind it, but I just wasn't a fan. We are following Connell and Marianne, who are 2 high school students. They live in the same small town in Ireland, I believe, and we are following their dynamic, their friendship. explored intimacy, relationship, and just them navigating this really crucial developmental period between the ages of like 18 and 24, and we follow them through those years. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I am, you know, right smack dab in the middle of that developmental phase, so I relate with both of the characters very strongly. And I think it discusses a lot of really important topics. I think it talks greatly on mental health and intimacy and first relationships and the nature of these relationships that you should have. And also I think it speaks on, you know, getting involved into relationships when you're still trying to develop that sense of autonomy and your own self and self-worth. I loved it. I think it spoke on a lot of great things. I think all those things I said were great, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I think that for some people it might not have resonated as much, especially if they're out of this like developmental period I'm talking about. You learn about it a lot in like Psych 101, honestly, and it's part of, I think, Maslow's hierarchy. No, wrong one. Erikson's stages of development, right? I'm pretty sure the two stages are identity versus role confusion and intimacy versus isolation. If you're a psych major out there, please let me know if I'm correct, but those were like the two really main age categories we're seeing them go through their late teens and into their early to mid 20s, and they're going through it. So I highly recommend, especially if you're in this age demographic, I think like the late teens, like if you're in high school to like college age and even like graduate level, I would think. I feel like it was really great and I enjoyed it. All right, and the next final three were just some Kindle reads that I finished off the month with. I wanted some light, fluffy romances because I did a lot of heavy reading, a lot of crying, a lot of 5 stars. So I first went with The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. I was really surprised to see this on Kindle, so I did scoop it up. Damn, a slow burn. And I'm pretty sure when I found out about this book, the person who recommended it did say it was a slow burn, but I wasn't expecting it to be as slow as it burned. So we're following 2 characters, Aiden and Vanessa, and Aiden is a defensive lineman for a football team, a national football team in Texas. He is a defensive lineman and he has an assistant named Vanessa, and they have a very tense like colleague boss employer relationship, and it leads Vanessa to quit because she's not taking Mr. Aiden's BS. And so the story kind of kicks off with that, and then quickly falls into Aiden needing Vanessa back and wanting her to come back to work for him, and we follow their relationship. It was pretty good. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. I was entertained. I've heard Mariana Zapata does a lot of other like sports romances. I know that she has a soccer one, Colty, I believe, and then I believe her hockey or like maybe figure skating is from Lukov with Love. Who knows? I definitely want to read more of her work. I thought it was super fun. It was just a fun time. The next book I read was Beautifully Cruel by J.T. Geisinger. I really enjoyed this book too. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. It was like a mafia-esque romance. Couple is Liam and True, and Liam has been coming into True's place of work for about a year and quietly, broodingly lusting after her. And then he makes his move, and then it turns out he's in the mafia. Big old thing. It was pretty good. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. I will say I really am hyping it up just because it got me back into mafia romance, which is one of my favorite like subgenres of the steamy romances. I really enjoy it and it's good. I started the Maid series by Danielle Laurie. You will definitely be hearing about it in my July wrap-up because dear God, it's good. I highly recommend it. Anyways, yeah, Beautifully Cruel. It was good. I didn't like the plot twist, so I took a star off. But besides that, it was fun, flirty, fresh, I just really like mafia bosses, so that's something I need to work on. And then how I ended this month. A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. This book really hit home for me. I was crying like 12 pages in. Actually, I was sobbing. It was definitely like a body-racking sob, and that is definitely because nobody warned me, and it was something I should have looked into more. But yes, we have A Thousand Boy Kisses. Ouch. We're following this like childhood friends to lovers romance. It's like friends to enemies to lovers kind of. And our main female character is Poppy, and she meets Rune, who is a nice Norwegian boy, and they meet at the age of 5. They're next door neighbors, and by age 8 is pretty much where the book really begins. Poppy's grandmother is really sick and on her deathbed, and she ends up passing, and she basically explains to Poppy that she wants her to collect 1,000 boy kisses, and it's this whole cheesy little thing. It was really the grandmother that got me and had me sobbing and crying, so I will say, be warned. It's very heartbreaking. I cried. Definitely more than I think most people would. But I don't think it was supposed to make people cry like that. I think it was supposed to be a more like, oh, so sweet, you know? Just sobbed. Then I kept reading, and things just got worse, and I started crying more. And by the end of this book, I definitely was congested. My eyes were bloodshot, and I was not happy. I was very, very sad. Yeah, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It's definitely not going to be the standard I hold to every other romance I read. It was definitely just a tearjerker because of the content. Yeah, it hurt really bad. I was extremely sad when I finished it. So yeah, that was the final book I read this month. 15 books in a month. A lot of reading I did. I can't really believe that I retained that much information from all of them, but it was enough to give you guys some pretty good recommendations, I think. I definitely think the last 2 weeks I read a lot of really great books. I wanted to say too, because I didn't do a wrap-up video, even though it's kind of okay because I did the mid-year book freakout tag, if you guys want to stay up to date with the books that I'm reading and kind of my wrap-ups as I go, definitely follow me on Goodreads. I always have it linked down below. It's just, the link will take you straight to it. It's Georgia Grace 28 as my username, and it's the same profile icon as my YouTube page. So if you guys want to follow me on there, I try to write reviews as I remember to, but sometimes occasionally I do forget. And I pretty much update it as I go, so it is the most up-to-date this year. It has all my books logged, and then how I have been tracking my book titles and like my page count and all of that is through my very own reading tracker that I created at the beginning of this year. I talked about it in my goals video, I'm pretty sure, and shared a link with you guys, but I will include the link down below again. You will have to create a duplicate copy of the one that I have, and then that will allow you to edit it, because if you start editing the copy that is linked, it will just put everybody's information in together if you guys want to. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you maybe got some recommendations or got insight onto my opinions on some of the books that might have been your favorite, that you might have read this month too, or read a long time ago, or they're on your TBR and you weren't sure if you wanted to read them. Hopefully this helped. If you guys have read any of these books or have some really great ones you want to recommend, please comment them down below. The floor is yours, and I love to chat with you guys in the comments. And that's gonna be it for me today, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're all having such a great day, and as always, guys, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.